Hi, I'm Carl, and this is a video series about how a natural disaster forced my wife, our dog, and I from our home and our hopeful journey to rebuild that home and get back in. As a bit of a recap, we live in Auckland, New Zealand, and a little over a week ago we received the equivalent of 3 months of rain in a single day. As you can imagine, that created total carnage and utter mayhem, severe flooding forcing people from their homes and into emergency shelters, and most sadly, 3 people died. So while our situation is far from the worst, I'm using this series as a way of documenting the journey itself and a way to try and digest and deal with the situation, I guess. So what is our situation? Or in short, within a period of about 12 hours, we went from watching a movie on the couch to evacuating our home and wondering where we were going to live. The reason for that is the rain caused landslides, which meant that the land and the house were unsafe to occupy. And if you watched the last video, you might notice that the surroundings are a little different, and that is because we are in our 4th home in 10 days. The good news is that this one we're here for 3 weeks, and we also have our own space, so we're not living with friends, which is great, so we're not bugging them. And also we can have the dog with us, and he clearly approves of the place. So we are in a good space for the next 3 weeks. So what I wanted to talk about in this video was kind of address the question I get asked the most, which is, when can you get back in? Now, whenever I answer that, the question is followed by another question, which is, why the hell does it take so long? So in this video, what I wanted to do was try and download some of the process and the reason why it isn't a quick fix, about who's involved and what needs to happen, and then note some things that have been really helpful for us that some other people might be able to use. And I want to try and do all of that without boring you to tears. So let's go. Let's see how I do. So the question, when can we move back in? The simple answer about when we can move back in is that we can move back in as soon as our plumbing is fixed. Right now, if we flush the toilet, anything that was in the toilet would end up down the bank and possibly in our neighbour's backyard. So you can imagine they would not appreciate that too much. So in order to move back in, we need to fix the plumbing so that the house is a sanitary place to live. In order to access the house, we need to make sure that the building is safe. So there's work to be done on the building and the piles potentially to ensure that the building itself is structurally sound. In order to do that, we need to ensure that the retaining walls are holding the land and the building in place. So there is a rebuild of at least one retaining wall and possibly the need to build one more. In order to build the retaining walls, we need to ensure that the land is safe, which means that we need to do some earthworks, and that we need to understand how that land needs to look to keep the retaining walls and the building safe. To do that, we need engineers to be able to come in and take samples of the land so that they can build the plan to make the land safe, to build the retaining walls, and so on and so forth. To do all of that, we need to pay people. In order to have the money to pay people, the Earthquake Commission needs to review the scenario and settle our insurance claim. And as I mentioned in the last video, that could take 4 to 6 months or even longer to happen. So it's not a very simple or straightforward process. But wait, there's one more thing. Prior to all of that, our council needs to provide the guidelines under which any of the engineers can come onto the property to do the work that they need to do, because our property is deemed unsafe and has been red stickered. So there's a fair bit of stuff that needs to happen, and we are trying to work through that now. What we have done to try and speed the process along is that we got in touch with our home insurer really quickly, and they were able to push things along for us quite quickly, which means that our claim has been top of the list, which means the early process of paperwork have been really quick, and people have been awesome at getting onto it and getting back to us. We also got in touch with the council very early, and they had some people out really quickly to the property to view it, to understand what needed to happen there. We worked super hard to find places to stay, and I know this is sometimes outside of people's control, but when we had a plan for our accommodation, when we finally knew where we were going to be staying for the longer term, it just put our mind at ease so much to then focus on all of the stuff that needs to happen with the house. It's really important to just know where you're staying for peace of mind. What we also did was we engaged our own geotechnical and structural engineers to come and view the property from our neighbour's land. And what that means is that they've been able to get ahead of the game and start building a plan, so that when they can get on, they're going to be moving really quickly. And we've been able to pass that on to council, who have then said, well, if you're ready to go, we'll do everything we can to allow those people access under the right guidelines, to do what they need to do. And that's just a weight off our mind, that we know that they know we're ready to go, which is pretty important. So those are a couple of things that we've done to move the process along quickly. And while we've had some really positive news over the last little while, we've got a major challenge coming up, and that is that there's another tropical cyclone heading directly towards Auckland. It's likely to be here in about a week, and I genuinely don't know whether our house would survive another one. So I guess we'll just have to deal with that as and when it comes. But that's enough for this video. In the next video, I'll update you obviously on the progress of the cyclone and any relevant updates on the property and what we've been able to do to move it forward. And I'll also let you know what we're doing to keep ourselves sane throughout this whole process. It's not all business. We're humans, and we have a need to try and have some sanity time. So I'll update you a little bit on that, and then so hopefully the next one can be a bit more fun, and fingers crossed that cyclone that's supposed to be bearing down on us manages to move away. So I'll leave you there with that. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.